What is up, gamers? As some of you may not know, if you don't really tune into the streams often, I have never actually made it clear since I made my language goals video for the year. I'm actually not learning Korean anymore. I think a month after I made that video, I just stopped learning Korean. So for that very reason, I'm here to make a video on how I study Japanese every single day. So yeah, let's get into a quick summary as to what I do on the daily. So the first thing that I do, if you guys saw my video on how I wake up, fuck, my channel's so boring. I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, I shower, I get ready, I eat my cereal, and the first thing that I do is that I turn on my study computer and I start on wanikani. If I have time to kill, or if I'm not swamped by an excess amount of work, I will do the extra study to sort of reinforce my knowledge on kanji that I'm not good at. Yeah, then I move on to anki. For anki, I use the JLPT N5 Tango deck and I do 5 new cards a day. After this, I typically don't really touch Japanese for the rest of the day, but I will do immersion. So I'll watch anime for at least one episode. I try to at least watch an episode of anime a day, just so then I don't fall out of listening to Japanese. I'll just find some way to passively listen to Japanese in my daily life. One thing that I will touch on is that I do use genki in order to study Japanese. Genki for some is very intense. However, I like learning from textbooks, so I actually find genki to be really useful. I'm gonna just right now give a brief list of resources that I've used, and I'll give my short little opinions on them. I made a list on my iPad, so I'm gonna read them off. Duolingo, I'm planning on making a full video on it because I think after their major update, it just completely went to shit. So yeah, I think the app is a fucking dumpster fire, and I don't think anyone should be using it for Japanese right now. Maybe they've changed it, maybe they've improved it, I don't know. From what I've seen, the general consensus is they're not doing good things. Genki is probably the best tool that I've used so far for learning grammar, as in it's not super dense, and it just teaches everything in a nice order, and then you do some exercises and you go into the next thing. For me, I like how that works. Not everyone likes how that works, but I'm a fan. Wanikani is what I'm using for learning kanji and vocabulary in general. It's complemented by the JLPT N5 Tango deck that I use, and this can be seen as unnecessary since I'm using one tool for vocabulary and then I'm using another tool that's also for vocabulary, and they're both using an SRS system. However, I just sort of like reviewing some kanji because sometimes I learn something on wanikani before N5 Tango and vice versa. So I don't know. It's just a system that I have. The next resource that I use is actually the first resource I use, and it's Take Him's Complete Guide. I am not a fan of Take Him's Complete Guide. I'm gonna be real. I think Take Him's Complete Guide should be probably avoided if you're starting out. It's not a bad resource, but there's better. There are better resources that are more updated or more maintained than Take Him's Guide. If you start off with Take Him's Complete Guide, you will notice that the first 2 sort of chapters have videos, and then after that there are no more videos. He hasn't updated the site in a really long time. I think the grammar guide is actually pretty good for starting out, but the complete guide I don't think should be used. So if you want to use Take Him's website as a resource, it's a very nice looking website, very good for starting out, but I do not recommend the complete guide. I recommend the grammar guide specifically. This last resource is my favorite resource for learning nuances, and as a linguistics major, it's just all the way up here. I really like this resource. I don't use it as my default textbook at the moment because I just want to cram grammar into my brain and then learn the nuances later. I think that's a lot more effective, but the resource I'm talking about is Imabi. Imabi really doesn't get a lot of attention in the YouTube landscape for Japanese learning because everyone just talks about genki and anki and wanikani and migaku. I think Imabi is a fantastic resource, and it is constantly being updated. The guy makes like no money from the project whatsoever. It's a passion project from this guy living in the United States who is very open to criticism. He'll get like native speakers to help with his explanations. He has a linguistics background, so a lot of the explanations are very grounded in linguistics and sort of academia in that like area. But I still think it is a very useful resource, even if you're not a linguist. If you're a linguist, this is probably your best resource. If you're like super passionate about Japanese, I think Imabi is your best resource. There's an old saying that goes, the tool is only as good as its user, and this can be applied to your web browser, because the thing is with web browsers is that we basically live in them. For the most part, we don't really leave our web browsers for the majority of the things that we do. So it's very easy to get sidetracked and distracted by other websites or like notifications. So I wanted to give you guys some extension recommendations to make your browser more focused or oriented so you can actually get work done. I use this extension when I'm trying to search something up on a website. Like say there's a word that I don't know, I'll just highlight it and then right click and then search with jisho, and then I'll find it. And the pitcher is an extension that adds the pitch accent to the website. Let's go over the last two, which I think are the most important and easily the most transferable extensions. The first one I'm going to talk about is DF YouTube. I found out about this through my conversation with JV Schultz that I did a while back. It helped me sort of reduce the amount of time I spend on YouTube, and I think it's really good. So like what you can do is you can hide your subscriptions, hide recommended videos, hide chats in stream. You can just hide everything that you think is really distracting to you, and it makes YouTube more minimal, and I think it's really good. I think the most important part of it is that you can disable your homepage, which is where a lot of people like spend their time, just refreshing their homepage trying to find something new. The last tool I want to talk about here is uBlock Origin. I think uBlock Origin is the best ad block hands down, and I don't think there's a competition. The power that you get with using uBlock is just so fucking good. Like I'm not even joking. This is especially good if you're a student who wants to take more control of how you use like social media and whatnot. Like uBlock is amazing for that. It has a feature on it that is an element picker tool, and what you can do is that you can highlight what part of the web page you want to get rid of, and you can just get rid of it, and it automatically loads into a filter file within the config of uBlock. So every time you go on that website, that specific thing will be gone. And I use it for a lot of websites. I don't want to say attached to these social medias and whatnot. If I use them, I want to use them as a tool. I don't want to be used by them, which is sort of what's going on in the modern era with all these apps. So yeah, in conclusion, these are my systems. If you want to adopt them, you can adopt them, and if you don't, then you probably have your own systems, and that's good. I just wanted to share mine in case anyone was interested, and if anyone was thinking about studying Japanese for themselves. I hope this video is useful for anyone who sees it, and hopefully one day we'll all be Jozu.